The first thing Sebastian Ricci noticed was not the smell of coffee, it was the trembling. The young woman behind the airport cafe counter had both hands wrapped around a paper cup as if it were the only thing keeping her from falling apart. Her cheeks were flushed from the heat of the espresso machine, dark curls pinned messily under a black visor, her soft, curvy frame half hidden beneath a green apron that had seen too many rushed mornings and too little kindness. Around her, Denver International Airport moved like a machine. Suitcases rolled. Announcements echoed. Rich travelers complained into phones. Flight crews cut through the crowd with polished smiles and exhausted eyes. Outside the tall glass windows, dawn stretched pale gold across the private runway, touching the wings of Sebastian's jet like a blessing. But Ava Morgan looked at him like she had seen a ghost. Sebastian stood in front of her counter in a black wool coat, calm as winter, surrounded by 4 men who had ended wars for him without ever raising their voices. Travelers gave him space without understanding why. They only knew what instinct told them. Do not bump into that man. Do not stare too long. Do not ask his name. Ava had not known any of that when he ordered. "Black coffee," he had said. "No, please. No smile. No impatience either." Just 2 words, low and controlled. She had nodded, because men like him passed through the airport every morning. Wealthy men, cold men, men who treated baristas like machines with human hands. She was used to being invisible. But then, while the coffee brewed, she heard the phone call. A man at the nearby table had spoken softly into his cell, too softly for most people to notice. Ava noticed everything. Years of being talked over had trained her to hear what people thought did not matter. "The king boards at 9:17, the man had whispered. "Once he's in the air, there's no rescue." Ava's fingers had gone still around the marker. The man had paused, listening. Then he said, "Tell Lorenzo it's done." Ava had turned her head slightly. The caller was already walking away. She did not know who Lorenzo was. She did not know what king meant. She did not know why her pulse suddenly beat against her throat, as if her body understood danger before her mind could explain it. Then she looked at the man in the black coat, at his bodyguards, at the private terminal beyond the glass, and she knew something terrible was waiting for him in the sky. So Ava Morgan did the only thing she could do. She took the coffee cup, her hand shaking so badly the black marker squeaked against the paper, and wrote 1 word across the white cardboard. Don. Tea. When she slid the cup toward him, Sebastian did not reach for it immediately. His dark eyes dropped to the word. Then they lifted to her face. For 1 suspended second, the airport seemed to disappear. Ava felt the full force of his attention, sharp and merciless, like he could see every secret she had ever swallowed. She wanted to explain. She wanted to tell him about the phone call, the stranger, the word Lorenzo, the cold fear running through her bones. But one of his guards moved first. "What is this?" the guard snapped. Ava flinched. Sebastian raised 1 hand. The guard stopped instantly. Sebastian picked up the cup and turned it slowly in his hand. "Why did you write this?" he asked. His voice was calm. That made it worse. Ava swallowed. "I heard something." "What?" "A call. A man at that table." She nodded toward the corner, but the table was empty now. "He said the king boards at 9:17. He said, once he's in the air, there's no rescue." Something changed behind Sebastian's eyes. Not fear, recognition. His bodyguards went still. Ava forced out the last part, barely above a whisper. "And he said to tell Lorenzo it's done." For the first time, Sebastian Ricci looked away from her. He looked toward the jet. A sleek black vehicle was waiting on the tarmac to take him across the private access lane. His pilot stood near the stairs. 2 airport officers lingered nearby, pretending not to watch. Sebastian checked his watch. 9:14. 3 minutes. He turned to one of his men. Stop the boarding. Boss, now. The bodyguard moved. Another reached for his earpiece. Shut down the plane. Nobody touches the engines. Ava's stomach dropped. Boss. Not sir. Not Mr. Ricci. Boss. The word spread cold through her mind. Sebastian did not move toward the gate. He moved toward Ava. Slowly, deliberately. Your name, he said. She should have lied. She knew that even before she answered. Ava, she whispered. Ava Morgan. He looked at her name tag, then back at her mouth, as if he wanted to know whether those trembling lips had just saved his life or delivered him into a different trap. Behind him, someone shouted on the tarmac. A mechanic ran from the jet. Then came a sound Ava would never forget. Not an explosion like in movies. A deep, violent metallic boom. The windows shook. Passengers screamed. A flash of orange burst beneath one wing of Sebastian Ricci's private plane, followed by black smoke curling hard into the morning sky. Ava dropped the marker. Sebastian did not even blink. His men surrounded him instantly, but his eyes remained locked on Ava. Outside, alarms began screaming. Inside, every traveler turned toward the smoke. Ava stood behind the coffee counter with her heart in her throat, realizing with horror that she had not written a warning on a stranger's cup. She had stepped into a war, and the most dangerous man in that war was now staring at her like she belonged to the moment that had kept him alive. Close the cafe, Sebastian said. Ava's manager rushed over, pale and furious. Excuse me? You can just. Sebastian's gaze cut to him. The manager stopped speaking. One of the bodyguards walked around the counter and lifted the little gate. Ava stepped back, panic rising fast. No, she said. Wait. I told you what I heard. That's all I know. Sebastian came closer. He did not touch her. Somehow, the space he left between them felt more dangerous than contact. I believe you, he said. Ava exhaled shakily. Then he added, That is why you are coming with me. The airport security office smelled like burnt coffee, carpet cleaner, and fear. Ava sat across from Sebastian in a private back room with no windows. Her apron was still tied around her waist. Her hands were locked in her lap. On the table between them sat the cup. Don tea. The ink had bled slightly from condensation. Sebastian watched it as if it were evidence from a murder scene. 2 airport executives stood near the wall, sweating through their suits. One tried to speak every few minutes, but Sebastian's men silenced him with a glance. Ava had never been in a room where power moved without sound. Sebastian did not yell. He did not threaten. He did not pace. He simply sat there, one ankle crossed over his knee, black coat open over a dark suit, his posture relaxed enough to terrify everyone. Ava hated that she noticed how beautiful he was. Not soft, beautiful. Dangerous beautiful. Dark hair brushed back. Sharp jaw. A faint scar near his left eyebrow. Eyes the color of storm clouds at night. His hands were broad, steady, and elegant, but there was something about them that made her think they had signed contracts, held weapons, and wiped away blood without trembling. He leaned forward. Tell me again. Ava shut her eyes briefly. I already told you 3 times. Tell me a 4th. Her fear sparked into anger. Do you think I invented a plane sabotage before my second break? One of his men stiffened. Sebastian's mouth almost changed. Not a smile. Something colder and more interested. No, he said. I think you are terrified. Terrified people forget details. Angry people remember them. Ava stared at him. He was manipulating her. Worse, it was working. She inhaled carefully. The man was sitting near the pillar. Grey coat. Baseball cap. He kept his back turned, but I saw his hand. There was a ring. Silver. Maybe a wolf. Or a dog. A wolf, Sebastian said quietly. Ava looked at him. You know who it was? I know what family uses that symbol. The room seemed to tighten. And Lorenzo? She asked. The air changed. Not much, just enough. Sebastian's eyes became unreadable. That name means nothing to you? No. Good. His answer chilled her. The airport executive cleared his throat. Mr. Ricci, with respect, federal authorities will want to question Miss Morgan. There will be protocols. Sebastian turned his head. Your protocols allowed a bomb onto my plane. The man went gray. Ava's stomach twisted. A bomb. Sebastian looked back at her, and for the first time, something human passed through his expression. Not tenderness, not concern, something like restraint. Yes. Ava pressed a hand over her mouth. She pictured the jet outside, the flame, the smoke. She pictured him inside it, his guards, the pilot, anyone near the runway. She had written one word, one tiny word, and it had changed the shape of a morning. I need to call my manager, she said weakly. I need to get back to work. No. Her eyes snapped to him. No. You are not going back behind that counter. You don't get to decide that. I do today. The arrogance of it burned through her fear. Ava pushed back her chair and stood. Listen to me, Mr. Ricci, or boss, or whatever people call you when they're too scared to use your name. I helped you because I thought you were in danger. That doesn't mean you own my day. His men went very still. Sebastian slowly rose. He was taller than she expected. Ava's breath caught, but she refused to step back. For a long moment, he only studied her face. Then he said, very quietly, If I wanted to own your day, Ava Morgan, you would not have to wonder. Heat rushed to her cheeks, not from desire. That was what she told herself. He turned to his men. Find the caller. Pull every camera from this concourse. Nobody speaks to press. Nobody touches her employee file. And tell Dominic to bring the car to the North Service exit. Ava frowned. Car. Sebastian picked up the cup. You saved my life in public, he said. Now my enemies know your face. Ava's anger faltered. He stepped closer, close enough for her to catch the faint scent of cedar, smoke, and expensive cologne. You think the danger ended when the plane burned? He asked. She hated the softness of his voice. It made the truth sound intimate. No, Sebastian said. That was the beginning. By noon, Ava Morgan's face was on every phone in the airport. Someone had filmed the moment Sebastian stopped in front of the cafe counter. The angle was shaky, the audio terrible, but the cup was visible. Don T. By 2 in the afternoon, online headlines were calling her the mystery barista who saved a billionaire from an airport disaster. By 3, her manager texted that corporate had suspended her pending investigation. By 4, a black SUV was parked outside her apartment building. Ava saw it from the bus stop. Snow had begun falling over Denver in thin silver lines, the kind of snow that made the city look softer than it was. Her apartment sat above a laundromat and a pawn shop, 3 floors of cracked brick and bad plumbing. Nothing about it belonged in the same universe as Sebastian Ricci. Yet there he was, leaning against the SUV like he had all the time in the world. Ava stopped on the sidewalk. Her tote bag slipped down her shoulder. He wore the same black coat. No visible weapon, no visible fear. Just that stillness that made the world around him seem poorly behaved. She walked toward him because running would have looked too much like surrender. Are you stalking me now? She demanded. No, you're outside my home. That is protection. That is stalking with better tailoring. One of his bodyguards looked away, hiding a reaction. Sebastian did not. I told you not to return here alone, and I told you that you don't own my life. I am trying to keep you alive. I was alive before you ordered coffee. And then you wrote on my cup." Ava's throat tightened, because beneath his controlled tone was a truth she could not escape. Before that cup, she had been exhausted, underpaid, invisible, and lonely. But she had not been hunted. She looked past him at the SUV. "How did you find my address?" "Your employee file. That's private. Not from me." She laughed once, bitterly. "You say things like that and expect me to feel safer?" Sebastian's gaze moved over her face, pausing at the shadows under her eyes, the wind-reddened tip of her nose, the stubborn lift of her chin. "No," he said. "I expect you to be smart enough to feel afraid." Ava stepped close enough that his bodyguards shifted. She looked up at him. "I am afraid. I'm afraid of the men who tried to kill you. I'm afraid of the police asking questions I can't answer. I'm afraid of losing my job. I'm afraid that tomorrow my rent will still be due and my life will be ruined because I helped the wrong man." Something flickered in Sebastian's eyes. Ava swallowed hard and continued. "But I'm also afraid of you." The words hung between them. His expression did not change, but the space around him seemed to darken. "Good," he said. Ava's chest hurt. Then he added, quieter. "Fear keeps honest people alive around men like me, for reasons she did not understand, that hurt worse than a threat, because it sounded like he had already decided he was something she should never want to understand." A car turned slowly onto the street. Sebastian's gaze shifted. His body changed before Ava even saw the danger. One hand closed around her wrist, not painfully, but absolutely, and he pulled her behind him as a dark sedan rolled past the laundromat. The rear window lowered. Ava saw the barrel of a gun. She did not have time to scream. Sebastian shoved her against the brick wall and covered her with his body as glass shattered above them. The laundromat window exploded. People screamed inside. His men moved like shadows, weapons appearing from beneath coats. The sedan sped away. Sebastian did not chase it. He looked down at Ava. She was pressed between him and the wall, her hands trapped against his chest, her breath coming in panicked bursts. Snow clung to his dark hair. His body was warm, solid, terrifyingly close. For one suspended second, he almost touched her face. His fingers lifted, stopped, closed into a fist. "Are you hit?" he asked. Ava shook her head, too shaken to speak. "Look at me." She did. His eyes searched hers with controlled violence. "Are you hit?" "No," she whispered. Only then did he step back. Something inside Ava trembled harder than fear, because the man who had terrified her had just protected her with his own body without hesitation, and he looked furious about what it cost him to care. The safe house was not a house. It was a fortress pretending to be a mountain mansion. 2 hours outside Denver, hidden beyond a private road cut through snow-covered pines, the estate sat against the dark shoulder of the Rockies with glass walls, stone terraces, and security cameras tucked under every roofline. Black SUVs lined the drive. Men in suits moved quietly through falling snow. Ava stood in the foyer, soaked from melted snow, clutching the strap of her tote bag. Everything smelled like leather, firewood, and money. Sebastian handed his coat to a waiting man without taking his eyes off her. "You'll stay here tonight." Ava looked around at the marble floors and huge windows overlooking the mountains. "Is this the part where I'm supposed to thank you for kidnapping me politely? This is the part where you stop pretending you had another safe option. I have friends. No, you have co-workers who sold your phone number to reporters by lunch." The words hit too close. Ava looked away. Sebastian noticed. Of course he noticed. The man seemed built to detect wounds. "I'm not saying it to hurt you," he said. "Then why say it? Because lies make people comfortable. Comfort gets them killed. She turned back to him. Do you ever say anything normal? No. Despite herself, Ava almost smiled. Sebastian saw that too. For a second, the coldness between them thinned. Then, a child screamed somewhere upstairs. Ava froze. Sebastian's entire expression changed. It happened so fast she might have missed it if she had not been watching him. The Mafia Boss disappeared, and something raw moved beneath the surface. Fear. Not for himself. For someone else. He turned sharply. Leo, a small boy, came running down the upper hallway in pajamas, chased by a woman in a nurse uniform. He was maybe 7, with dark hair, wide, frightened eyes, and a stuffed dinosaur clutched to his chest. He stopped at the top of the stairs when he saw Ava. Then he looked at Sebastian. You didn't leave? The boy asked. Sebastian went still. No, he said. The boy's lip trembled. I dreamed the plane broke. Ava's heart folded painfully. Sebastian climbed the stairs slowly, as if approaching a wounded animal. He crouched in front of the child, but did not reach for him. I am here, he said. The plane didn't take me, but it tried. Sebastian's jaw tightened. Ava looked away, feeling like she had walked into a secret. Then Leo's eyes found the cup in Sebastian's hand. The cup. He had brought it with him. What does that say? Leo asked. Sebastian looked down at the word Don, T, then back at Ava. It says someone was brave, he answered. Ava's throat burned. Leo stared at her. Are you the brave one? Ava did not know what to say. I was scared, she admitted. The boy nodded solemnly. That counts. Sebastian watched her as if that small exchange had revealed more than any interrogation. Later, Ava learned the truth in pieces. Leo was not Sebastian's son. He was his nephew. His mother, Sebastian's younger sister, had been murdered 6 months earlier, after trying to leave a man connected to the Vitali family. Leo had seen something that could destroy Enzo Vitali in federal court, but only if Sebastian kept him alive long enough to testify. The flight from Denver had not been a business trip. Sebastian had been flying to meet the federal marshal, arranging Leo's witness protection transfer. Only 3 people knew the route. Sebastian, his chief guard, Dominic, and Lorenzo Ricci, his cousin. Ava sat across from Sebastian in the mansion library, as the fire snapped between them and snow pressed against the windows like silent hands. You think your cousin tried to kill you, she said. Sebastian poured whiskey into a glass but did not drink it. I think someone wants me to think that. Do you trust him? He looked at her over the rim of the glass. I trust very few people. That's not an answer. It is the only honest one. Ava pulled the sleeves of her borrowed sweater over her hands. The clothes had appeared in her room without explanation. Soft jeans, a cream sweater, warm socks, all in her size. That bothered her, more than it should have. A man like Sebastian noticing her size without making her feel ashamed felt more intimate than a compliment. You should tell the FBI, she said. His laugh was quiet and humorless. You think law enforcement saves people like Leo. I think children deserve every protection they can get. So do I. That's why I don't outsource his life to men who can be bought. Ava looked toward the ceiling, imagining the little boy asleep somewhere above them. What happens to me? She asked. Sebastian set down the glass untouched. You stay alive. That's not a life. No, he said. It's the first requirement for one. She looked at him then, really looked. The mansion was full of men ready to kill for him. His name opened sealed doors. His money bent systems. His silence terrified powerful people. And still, he seemed lonelier than anyone Ava had ever met. It made her chest ache in a way she did not want. Why did you bring me here? She asked softly. Really? His eyes held hers. Because when everyone else moved away from danger, you stepped closer. Ava's breath caught. Sebastian stood and came around the desk. Slow, controlled, giving her time to move. She did not. He stopped in front of her chair, close enough that she had to tilt her head back. "I don't understand that kind of person," he said. His voice was lower now, almost private. Ava's fingers tightened around her sleeves. "Maybe you've spent too much time with cowards." A faint shadow of amusement touched his mouth. Then his eyes dropped to her lips. The fire cracked. Ava forgot the snow, the guards, the danger. Sebastian lifted his hand. Again, he almost touched her. Again, he stopped. The restraint felt like a hand around her heart. "Go to bed, Ava," he said. It sounded like an order. It sounded like a warning. It sounded like he was speaking to himself. The next morning, Lorenzo Ricci arrived with sunlight on his shoulders and betrayal hidden behind a perfect smile. He was everything Sebastian was not. Warm, charming, easy with his hands, golden brown hair, expensive gray suit, eyes that made people feel selected rather than studied. He kissed the cheek of the housekeeper, ruffled Leo's hair, and greeted Ava, as if she were an honored guest instead of a terrified witness in borrowed clothes. "So this is the woman who saved my cousin," Lorenzo said, taking her hand before she could stop him. "Ava Morgan. Denver's new guardian angel." Sebastian's gaze dropped to Lorenzo's fingers around her hand. The room temperature seemed to fall. Ava pulled her hand back. "I just wrote on a cup. History has turned on less," Lorenzo said with a smile. Sebastian said nothing. That silence was more threatening than anger. They met in the glass-walled dining room, overlooking the mountains. Dominic placed security files on the table. Photos. Flight records. Still. Images from airport cameras. Ava identified the man from the cafe table. Gray coat, baseball cap, silver wolf ring. Lorenzo leaned over the photo and frowned perfectly. Vitali. Sebastian watched him. "You were sure? That ring is Enzo's inner circle. And the call mentioned your name." Lorenzo looked wounded. Ava saw it happen. The small performance. The exact amount of pain. The pause long enough to feel sincere. "Sebastian," Lorenzo said softly, "you think I had something to do with this? I think someone wanted your name in her mouth." Lorenzo's eyes flicked to Ava. Only once. But Ava felt it. The calculation. Then it was gone. "Or someone knew your distrust would do the work for them," Lorenzo said. Sebastian leaned back. The cousins stared at each other across the table, and Ava suddenly understood that mafia wars did not begin with gunfire. Sometimes they began with family speaking gently over coffee. That night, Sebastian announced they would attend a private gathering at the Bellwether Club in downtown Denver, an underground luxury venue where politicians, judges, financiers, and criminals pretended they were different species. Ava stared at him like he had lost his mind. "You want to take me to a room full of people who might want me dead. I want the person who tried to kill me to see that you are under my protection. I don't need to be displayed. You need to be untouchable. Those are not the same thing." "No," Sebastian said. "But in my world, one creates the other." She refused 3 times. Then Leo knocked on her bedroom door holding the stuffed dinosaur and asked if she was leaving forever. Ava went to the club. The dress was deep emerald satin, elegant and simple, with long sleeves and a neckline that made her feel exposed without feeling cheap. It fit her body instead of fighting it. When Ava looked in the mirror, she did not see the woman customers ignored at the coffee counter. She saw someone dangerous enough to stand beside Sebastian Ricci. That scared her most of all. He was waiting at the bottom of the stairs. Black suit, open collar, silver watch. His expression unreadable until he saw her. Then the mask cracked, only for a second. But Ava saw it. His eyes moved over her slowly. not with the lazy entitlement she was used to from men who thought curvy women should be grateful for attention. Sebastian looked at her, as if the sight of her cost him control. "You should change," he said. Ava's confidence dropped. "What?" His jaw flexed. "Every man in that room will look at you." Heat rose in her face. "And that bothers you?" "Yes." The honesty struck harder than flirtation. Before she could answer, he stepped closer and fastened a diamond bracelet around her wrist. Ava stared down at it. "I can't wear this." "You can. It probably costs more than my apartment building. 2 of them." She looked up sharply. He did not smile. "Take it off," she said. "No, Sebastian." At the sound of his name in her voice, something shifted in his eyes. He reached for her wrist, not to remove the bracelet, but to adjust the clasp. His thumb brushed the inside of her pulse. Ava went still. His touch was brief, controlled, devastating. "It is not a gift," he said quietly. "It is a message. To who?" "To anyone, wondering how much damage I would cause if they touched you." The Bellwether Club was hidden beneath a historic hotel, all velvet shadows, candlelit tables, marble columns, and music that sounded expensive enough to keep secrets. When Ava entered on Sebastian's arm, the room noticed. Not loudly. That would have been less frightening. Conversations thinned. Eyes turned. Men who looked powerful lowered their voices. Women in diamonds measured Ava's body, her dress, her closeness to Sebastian. For the first time in her life, Ava was not invisible. She hated how exposed it made her feel. Sebastian's hand rested lightly at her lower back. Not pushing, not claiming. Still, everyone understood. Lorenzo approached with a glass of champagne and a smile. "Cousin," he said, "you didn't mention Miss Morgan would be attending as your date." "She is not my date," Sebastian said. Ava felt the words like cold water. Then Sebastian added, "She is under my name." The room went silent around them. Lorenzo's smile tightened. A woman in white silk appeared beside him, tall, thin, stunning, with a face made for magazine covers and cruelty. Isabella Carraro. Ava had heard the name whispered by the house staff. Daughter of a powerful New York family. The woman Sebastian was expected to marry if he wanted peace on the East Coast. Isabella looked Ava up and down. "So this is the coffee girl," she said. Ava's spine stiffened. Sebastian's hand left her back. The absence of it felt sudden and cold. "Careful," he said. Isabella laughed lightly. "I'm only surprised. I expected your witness to look more polished." Ava had been insulted by better people and worse words. Still, something about the room watching made it hurt. Before she could answer, Sebastian took the champagne from Lorenzo's hand and set it untouched on a passing tray. Then he looked at Isabella. "Apologize." Her smile faded. "Excuse me? You heard me." "Sebastian, don't be dramatic." He stepped closer to Isabella, not enough to threaten, just enough to remind everyone what kind of man he was beneath the suit. "You insulted a woman who saved my life," he said calmly. "Apologize before I make your father regret sending you to speak for him." The silence became absolute. Isabella's face flushed. She looked at Ava with hatred polished into elegance. "I apologize," she said. Ava should have felt triumphant. Instead, she felt trapped, because Sebastian had defended her like she mattered, but he had also turned her into a symbol in a room full of predators. A message, a warning, a weakness. Later, on the balcony above the club's private courtyard, Ava pulled away from him. "You used me," she said. Sebastian stood with the city lights behind him. "I protected you. You displayed me." "Yes, at least deny it. I won't insult you with lies." Ava laughed softly, painfully. "You really don't know how to be good, do you?" His expression hardened. No. The answer should have ended the conversation. Instead, it opened something. Ava stepped closer. Then why did you look like you wanted to kill everyone who looked at me? Sebastian's eyes dropped to her mouth. Because I did. Her breath caught. The cold balcony air wrapped around them. Music pulsed faintly behind the glass. Snow fell beyond the railing, soft and bright over the dark city. Sebastian moved closer. Ava should have moved away. She did not. His hand lifted to her face, stopping just before his knuckles touched her cheek. I have wanted many things in my life, he said. Most of them I took, Ava whispered. And me? His eyes burned into hers. You are the first thing I want badly enough to leave untouched. The words entered her like a wound. Then the balcony doors opened. Dominic appeared, tense. Boss. Leo's security detail isn't answering. Sebastian turned. Whatever had nearly happened between them died instantly, and Ava saw the monster return. By the time they reached the mountain mansion, Leo was gone. The nursery door stood open. The bed was empty. The stuffed dinosaur lay on the floor. One of Sebastian's guards was unconscious in the hallway, breathing but badly injured. The nurse sobbed in the corner, repeating that she had only turned away for a minute. On Leo's pillow sat Ava's airport name tag. Ava stared at it, her blood turning to ice. Sebastian picked it up slowly. His face emptied. No, Ava said immediately. No, I didn't. He looked at her, not with accusation. That would have been easier. With doubt. Just a flicker. Just one terrible human second. But Ava saw it. The pain of it stole her breath. You think I helped them, she whispered. Sebastian said nothing. Ava stepped back. After everything, the cup, the plane, the gunfire, the club, Leo asking if she would leave forever, one planted piece of plastic had been enough to make him wonder. Her voice shook. I saved your life. His jaw tightened. I know. I sat with that little boy during breakfast because he was scared you would disappear. I know. Then say it. His eyes held hers. Ava waited. Say you believe me. Say you know I did not hand a child to monsters. Say one honest thing. Sebastian looked away first. Something broke inside her quietly. Not dramatically. Quietly was worse. Ava nodded, tears burning but refusing to fall. There it is. He reached for her. Ava. She stepped out of reach. No. Don't almost touch me now. His hand stopped midair. She walked past him. Dominic moved to block her, but Sebastian spoke. Let her go. Ava turned at the doorway, stunned by how much she hated that he allowed it. You were good at that, she said, letting people leave before they can matter too much. Sebastian's face changed. This time she did not stay to understand it. Ava did not make it far. She took one of the side exits and walked into the snow without a coat, shaking with rage and heartbreak. She knew she was being stupid. She knew danger had not vanished, just because she was hurt. But pain made people reckless. And Ava Morgan had spent her whole life being careful. Careful with money, careful with space, careful with her body around people who judged it, careful with hope. Because hope had teeth. She was tired of careful. At the end of the long private drive, a car waited. Lorenzo Ricci stepped out. Ava froze. He lifted both hands. I'm not here to hurt you. She laughed once, bitter and cold. That's exactly what someone says before they hurt you. I know where Leo is. The world narrowed. Ava's breath clouded in the freezing air. Lorenzo looked tired now, less polished, more human. Sebastian won't listen to me, he said. He thinks everyone is betrayal, waiting to happen. But you? Leo trusts you. If we bring him home together, Sebastian will have to see the truth. Ava stared at him. Every instinct screamed no. Then Lorenzo said the one thing that pierced through anger. Leo asked for you. Ava closed her eyes. That was how betrayal entered. Not through greed, through the part of you that still cared. She got into the car. The moment the locks clicked, she knew. Lorenzo's expression changed in the reflection of the window. Gone was the warmth. Gone was the cousin with champagne and soft smiles. In its place was something flat and hungry. Ava's stomach dropped. "You planted my name tag," she whispered. Lorenzo smiled. "You baristas notice everything." She lunged for the door. A man in the front passenger seat turned and pressed a cloth over her mouth. Ava fought hard enough to tear skin. But the world tilted. The last thing she saw before darkness took her was Lorenzo's silver cufflink. A wolf. When Ava woke, she was tied to a chair inside an abandoned private hangar on the edge of a snow-covered airfield. Her head throbbed, her wrists burned. The air smelled like gasoline, rust, and old concrete. Somewhere beyond the hangar doors, wind screamed across the runway. Leo sat a few feet away, wrapped in a blanket, his face pale with fear. Ava's heart lurched. "Leo," she whispered. His eyes filled. "Ava, are you hurt?" He shook his head. She forced herself to smile. "Good. That's good. We were going to be okay." Lorenzo's voice came from behind her. "No, you're not." He walked into view, hands in his pockets, looking almost bored. Beside him stood Enzo Vitali, older, broad, silver-haired, with dead eyes and a red scarf tucked into his black coat. Ava had never seen evil look so well-dressed. Enzo studied her. "This is the woman." Lorenzo nodded. "The cup girl." Enzo smiled faintly. "One word cost me a plane, 6 men, and a year of planning." Ava lifted her chin. "Maybe hire smarter men." Lorenzo laughed. Enzo did not. He stepped closer and struck her across the face. Pain flashed white. Leo cried out. Ava tasted blood but refused to lower her eyes. "Don't touch him," she said. Enzo looked amused. "You are in no position to give orders." "No," Ava whispered, "but Sebastian Ricci is." For the first time, Enzo's smile faded. Lorenzo crouched in front of her. "Sebastian is currently tearing Denver apart looking for you. In another hour, he'll receive a video of you confessing that you helped me take Leo. Then, he'll come here alone, angry and stupid. He won't believe it." Lorenzo tilted his head. "Won't he? He already doubted you once." The words found the bruise he intended. Ava looked away. Lorenzo leaned closer. "That's the thing about my cousin. He wants loyalty, but he doesn't know how to trust it. You could love him until your bones broke, and he would still search your hands for a knife." Ava's throat tightened, because part of that was true, and because part of her had already begun to love him anyway. Enzo turned to one of his men. "Record it." A phone was raised. Lorenzo pulled a knife and cut the rope around one of Ava's wrists, only to place a gun in her shaking hand and aim it toward the floor. "Say Sebastian forced you to help him hide the child," Lorenzo instructed. "Say you took Leo because you feared for your life. Say Lorenzo Ricci tried to save you." Ava looked at the camera, then at Leo, then back at Lorenzo. Her hand trembled around the gun. "You rewrite about one thing," she said softly. Lorenzo's eyes narrowed. Ava lifted her gaze. "Sebastian doesn't trust easily." Then she turned the gun and fired into the hangar lights. The shot cracked through the air. Glass exploded overhead. Darkness swallowed half the room. Leo screamed. Ava threw herself sideways, chair and all, hitting the concrete hard enough to knock the breath from her lungs. Men shouted. Someone grabbed for her. She kicked wildly, pain tearing through her shoulder. The hangar doors burst open. White snow blew in like smoke, and Sebastian Ricci walked through the storm. Not ran, walked. Black coat whipping behind him. Gun in one hand, blood at his temple. eyes fixed on Ava like the rest of the world had already been condemned. Behind him came his men. The hangar erupted. Gunfire shattered the silence. Men dove behind crates and vehicles. Ava twisted toward Leo, dragging the chair with her, one wrist still bound. Sebastian saw. He moved through chaos with terrifying focus, firing only when necessary, never wasting motion. Dominic reached Leo first, cutting him free and pulling him behind a steel column. Lorenzo grabbed Ava from behind and pressed a gun beneath her jaw. Everything stopped. Sebastian turned. The world narrowed again, this time to 3 people. Ava, Lorenzo, Sebastian. Snow swept across the hangar floor between them. Lorenzo's smile was gone. Drop it. Sebastian's gun remained raised. Lorenzo pressed harder against Ava's jaw. She winced. Sebastian dropped the gun. The sound of it hitting concrete echoed. Lorenzo laughed breathlessly. There he is, the great Sebastian Ricci, undone by a coffee girl. Sebastian's eyes never left Ava's face. Are you hurt? He asked. Ava almost broke. Even now, even here. That was his question. Lorenzo snarled. Look at me when I'm talking to you. Sebastian did not. Ava understood then. Lorenzo wanted power. Enzo wanted revenge. But Sebastian dangerous, damaged, impossible. Sebastian wanted her to breathe. That was the difference. And love, Ava realized, was sometimes not soft at all. Sometimes it was the man willing to kneel unarmed in a storm of bullets because your life was pressed beneath another man's finger. Lorenzo dragged her backward toward a small private plane waiting beyond the hangar. Move, and she dies, he said. Sebastian slowly lowered himself to one knee. Ava's heart stopped. No, she whispered. He placed both hands where Lorenzo could see them. Ava, Sebastian said calmly. Tears blurred her vision. I should have believed you. The words hit harder than the gun. Lorenzo tightened his grip. Touching. Truly, Sebastian continued, voice steady. I believed fear before I believed you. That is my sin, not yours. Ava shook her head, crying now. Don't do this. I have done many things for power, Sebastian said. This is not one of them. Lorenzo's hand trembled. That was when Ava felt it. The loosened rope at her wrist. The knife Lorenzo had used had not cut cleanly, but the fall had torn the fibers further. She twisted her hand once. Pain ripped through her skin. The rope slipped. Sebastian saw the smallest movement. His expression did not change. Ava waited 1 heartbeat, 2. Then she drove her elbow back into Lorenzo's ribs and dropped. Sebastian moved before she hit the ground. Dominic fired. Lorenzo's gun went off, the bullet striking metal above Ava's head. Sebastian reached her, pulling her beneath him as sparks rained from the hangar door. Enzo tried to run toward the plane, dragging Leo with him, but Leo bit his hand and broke free. Ava saw the boy running across the slick concrete, straight toward danger. She pushed out from under Sebastian and ran. Ava! Sebastian shouted. She reached Leo just as Enzo turned his weapon. Sebastian's shot hit first. Enzo fell backward against the plane stairs and did not rise. Lorenzo, wounded but moving, crawled toward Sebastian's dropped gun. Ava saw him. So did Sebastian, but Leo was between them. There was no clean shot. Ava grabbed the nearest object from the floor, a paper coffee cup. One of Lorenzo's men must have brought it, half-crushed, stained, absurdly ordinary in the middle of a war. Ava threw it as hard as she could. It hit Lorenzo in the face. Just enough. Just 1 second. Sebastian crossed the distance and slammed him to the ground. The violence was swift, controlled, and final. Ava pulled Leo against her chest and turned his face away. When it was over, the hangar was full of sirens, snow, and men lowering their weapons. Sebastian stood over Lorenzo, breathing hard. Then he turned to Ava. The monster vanished. Only the man remained. He walked toward her slowly, as if afraid sudden movement would make her disappear. Ava held Leo with one arm and pressed her bleeding wrist against her chest. Sebastian stopped in front of them. He looked at Leo first. "You safe?" Leo nodded, crying silently. Then Sebastian looked at Ava. His face broke in a way she had never seen, not loudly. Sebastian Ricci did not fall apart like ordinary men. His control simply cracked enough for the truth to show. "I thought I lost you," he said. Ava whispered, "You almost did." "I know." "No," she said, her voice shaking. "Not here. Earlier. When you looked at me like I might be capable of hurting him." Sebastian flinched. Good. She needed him to feel it. "I know," he said again. Ava waited for excuses. He gave none. "I have lived too long among traitors," he said. "I let them teach me to doubt the one person who had earned my faith." His eyes lowered to her injured wrist. His hand lifted. This time, he did not stop halfway. He touched her gently, fingers barely closing around her hand. Ava trembled. Not from fear, from the terrible relief of being reached for by someone who had spent his whole life refusing to need. "I don't know how to love without wanting to protect too much," Sebastian said. "I don't know how to want without becoming dangerous. I don't know how to be gentle before I am afraid." Ava's eyes filled again. "But I will learn," he said, "if you stay alive long enough to teach me." Leo sniffled against Ava's side. "That's a weird proposal." Ava let out a broken laugh. Even Sebastian's mouth softened. Not a smile exactly, but close enough to feel like sunrise. 3 weeks later, the world learned Lorenzo Ricci had betrayed his own family. The official story involved federal indictments, international warrants, corruption at private aviation companies, and an unnamed witness whose testimony dismantled the Vitali network from Denver to New York. Ava's name appeared in the news for exactly 48 hours before every article quietly disappeared. She did not ask how. She already knew. Leo entered witness protection under a new name, but not alone. Sebastian arranged it so the boy would live with a retired couple who had once sheltered his sister years earlier. Safe people, kind people, people outside the reach of old blood. The goodbye happened at a quiet mountain airstrip at dawn. Leo hugged Ava first. "You still count as brave," he whispered. She cried harder than she expected. Then Leo hugged Sebastian. For a moment, Sebastian did not move. Then he closed his arms around the boy and held him like something sacred. Ava looked away to give them privacy. When the plane lifted into the pale morning sky, Sebastian stood beside her without speaking. This time, there was no smoke, no fire, no warning written on a cup, just a safe departure and a silence full of things neither of them knew how to say. Afterward, Ava returned to Denver, not to the old cafe. Corporate offered her job back with a careful apology and a promotional campaign about employee courage. Ava declined. Sebastian did not buy her a coffee shop. He tried. She refused so violently that Dominic left the room laughing under his breath. Instead, Sebastian introduced her to a lawyer, a lender who owed him nothing, and a building owner who owed him too much to be rude but not enough to call it a gift. Ava signed every paper herself. 3 months later, Morgan's opened in a renovated corner space near the airport train entrance. Not luxury, not flashy. Warm lights, real mugs, good coffee, a wall of windows facing the mountains, a small framed paper cup behind the counter with one word written in black marker, Don, T. People asked about it often. Ava always smiled and said, "Long story." On opening night, the line stretched out the door. Her old co-workers came. A few airport employees. A pilot who had survived the sabotage because Ava stopped the boarding. Even Dominic arrived with flowers and pretended they were not from him. Sebastian did not come. Ava told herself she was relieved. She had not seen him in 11 days, not since the night they stood outside her new shop, and he told her he would not enter her life like an invasion. "You deserve choices," he had said. "And you?" she had asked. His eyes had held hers in the dark. "I deserve the consequences of what I am." Then he had left before she could answer. At 10:17 p.m., Ava locked the door after the last customer. Snow fell gently outside. She turned off the front lights, leaving only the warm glow behind the counter. Then she saw the black SUV parked across the street. Her heart betrayed her instantly. Sebastian stood beneath the street lamp in a black coat, hands in his pockets, snow catching in his hair. Not approaching, waiting. Ava opened the door. Cold air rushed in. "You planning to stand out there all night?" she called. His gaze lifted. "I hadn't decided." She leaned against the doorway. "That sounds uncomfortable. I've survived worse." "I know." The words softened everything. Sebastian crossed the street slowly. When he reached her, he stopped on the sidewalk, leaving space between them. Always giving her room now. Always fighting the instinct to take. Ava noticed. It mattered. "You didn't come inside," she said. "It was your night. You could have had coffee. I wanted to. Then why didn't you?" His eyes moved over her face with that familiar restraint, but something had changed. The coldness was still there, the danger too. But now there was honesty beneath it. "Because wanting has never been my problem," he said. "Taking has." Ava's throat tightened. He held out a paper cup. Her logo was printed on the side. Morgan S. Ava took it, confused. It was empty. One word had been written across the cardboard in black marker. "Stay." She looked up. Sebastian's expression remained controlled, but his eyes were not. "I am not asking you to enter my world blindly," he said. "I am not asking you to forgive what I am in one night. I am not asking you to become soft for a man who may never deserve softness." His voice lowered. "I am asking for the chance to stand at the edge of your life until you decide whether I belong closer." Ava stared at the cup. "Stay." The word blurred. "You're a very dramatic for a man asking for coffee," she whispered. His mouth curved slightly. "Only with you." She stepped closer. He went still. Ava reached up and brushed snow from his collar. Such a small touch. Such a dangerous one. Sebastian closed his eyes for half a second. Like her hand on him was harder to survive than bullets. "You hurt me," she said. "I know. I may remind you of that. You should. I won't be owned. I know. I won't be hidden. I know. And if you ever doubt me like that again." "I won't," he said. Ava looked into his eyes. The vow was quiet, absolute. She believed him, not because he was good, because he was trying to become honest with her. And for a man like Sebastian Ricci, honesty was more intimate than tenderness. Ava unlocked the door behind her and stepped inside. Then she looked back. "Well," she said, "are you coming in or not?" Sebastian stared at her, as if she had just opened a church door. Then he followed. Inside, the shop smelled like cinnamon, espresso, and new beginnings. Ava moved behind the counter, aware of his eyes on her, aware of the silence changing shape around them. She made him black coffee. No sugar. No cream. When she handed him the cup, their fingers touched. This time, neither of them pulled away. Sebastian looked down. Ava had written one word beneath his name. "Please." For a moment, the feared head of the Ricci family, the man who had survived betrayal, war, fire, and blood, looked utterly undone by a barista with marker ink on her fingers. Then he looked at her. "Is that a warning?" he asked softly. Ava smiled through the ache in her chest. "No," she said. "It's an invitation." Sebastian set the cup down untouched. He came around the counter slowly, giving her every chance to move away. She didn't. When he reached her, he lifted one hand to her face. This time, he touched her. His palm was warm against her cheek. His thumb brushed once beneath her eye, careful, reverent, as if she was something he feared, damaging more than losing. Ava leaned into him. Outside, snow covered the city in white silence. Inside, the man everyone feared lowered his forehead to hers and breathed like he had finally reached land after years at sea. "I don't know how to be harmless," he whispered. Ava closed her eyes. "I never asked you to be harmless." His fingers trembled against her cheek. "I asked you to be mine honestly," she said. Sebastian's other hand settled at her waist, firm but gentle, protective, but no longer trapping. "Then, honestly," he said, his voice rough with devotion, "I have belonged to you since the moment you wrote on that cup." Ava smiled, and when he kissed her, it was not soft, not exactly. It was restrained fire. It was danger learning patience. It was a man who could command an empire, choosing, for once, to ask. It was Ava Morgan, no longer invisible, no longer trembling behind a counter, no longer afraid of taking up space in a world that had tried to make her small. The framed cup on the wall watched over them like a relic. Don T. The word that had stopped a plane. The word that had started a war. The word that had saved a mafia boss from death and led him, unwillingly and completely, to the woman who would teach him that devotion was not possession. It was choosing her, again and again, even when the whole world burned behind him. And in the warm light of her little coffee shop, with snow falling over Denver and Sebastian Ricci holding her like a vow he intended to keep, Ava finally understood the truth. She had not stopped him from boarding the plane. She had stopped him from spending the rest of his life alone.